let's implement React Native user authentication with the Expo Router version 2 and Clerk. Hey everyone, what's up? This is Simon from Galaxies.dev, and in today's video I will show you how to add user authentication to your React Native application, and we're gonna use the latest version of the Expo Router, which means, yes, file-based routing of Expo SDK 49. And we're gonna use Clerk for this as our user authentication and management provider. And Clerk is also the sponsor of this video. Go check it out, clerk.com. You can start for free up until 5K monthly users, and Clerk is a great solution, probably the best to handle all the users of your application. On top of that, Clerk also integrates with stuff like Supabase and Firebase. If you already use that at your backend, you can still get the benefits of Clerk and the user management. If you want to check out the code, link below the video to the written version and all the code on GitHub. And without further ado, let's now build our React Native user authentication. Alright, so let's get into our app. I already created a new Expo application using create Expo app at latest. So we're going to use SDK version 49, called this Clerk app, and we're going to use the template tabs. So this will give us a blank application with Expo with a few pages. We're going to actually get rid of most of the stuff because this is somewhat confusing us, and we want to focus on Clerk and how we can implement authentication. So let's remove the components and the constants folder, and I will also do this to the HTML, to the missing and the tabs folder. So we only keep the layout, and then I can add a new index.tsx file, and within the index we can just show like a little activity indicator to indicate that something is going on. And if I now refresh my application, we see this is the initial screen. So nothing really big going on yet. Let's take a look at Clerk in detail. So Clerk, more than authentication, it definitely is. From all that I've seen, this is one of the best, if not the best solution for user authentication and management. They have a pretty nice free tier, so you can use this up until, I think, 5K monthly active users, which is like my project never got 5K users. And even then for a hobby, 25 is also a fair price. They come with tons of SDKs. The usage with Expo is a tiny bit different than how it works with our stuff, because we're not using, let's say, the traditional Clerk route, but a tiny bit different way of implementing this. But this makes things actually more interesting. So go sign up, create your account at clerk.com, and then you can continue. So what you're going to want to do first of all is add an application. I'm going to call this Expo Video. And then you can design your sign-in component. Yeah, that's pretty cool. In fact, we will not use this view in our Expo application because this is not going to work. We're going to do this more in a manual way. However, I found this editor to be really, really beautiful. Like all the customizations you can add to this screen. By the way, there are 90 more items. And you can later use this as a sign-in component. So it's really focused on developers to use this. So I'm going to call this Expo Video. I only want email address. I actually don't even need Google sign-in. So I'm going to create my application, and then your sign is ready. Actually, I could drop in the sign-in component from the Expo package into like a Next.js or React application, and I would just immediately see the good stuff. However, we now need this, so let's copy the Clerk publishable key and put it into our environment. You know, since Expo 49, we can easily use our environment file. I'm going to actually add Expo public in front of this, and then we can just grab this key using process.environment. For that, I will also have to kill my Expo run command. And on top of that, we of course need to install the Clerk package. Maybe we're gonna open the docs for Expo. That would make sense probably, because we go along the documentation a tiny bit, but we're also gonna venture our own path very soon. So let's get started. Let's install Clerk Expo. And I will actually install 2 additional packages. So the first additional package that I want to add is the Expo Secure Storage package, because that will help us to correctly cache the JWT that we get back from Clerk. So after installing this, I will follow this up by saying npx expo install expo secure store. And because we're gonna have some loading states in our application, I'll also add the React Native loading spinner overlay. I kind of like that package. I feel like I've used this in pretty much all the videos I do. It's just an easy way to, is my simulator running? It's just an easy way to show a loading indicator in our application. Okay, nothing really has changed at this point. We still see our loading, but we can now load the clerk key in our layout, because we're gonna wrap our application with a clerk provider. That's the general idea we want to follow, because that will give our application all the functionality of clerk. That also means I want to kind of get rid of all the stuff in here. I really don't want to use all of this, so let's get rid of this function root layout. I don't know, but I kind of like to have it like this, const. And if I do it once, I do it in all the places. So here we go. I don't really want the theme provider that Expo added to the template. I don't even need the modal screen. I kind of don't need any kind of screen in here. But what I want to have in here is the clerk provider. So that's the most important part, clerk provider. Don't trust Copilot. Whatever Copilot is saying is a lie. So the way to use it is to inject your key, the clerk publisher key, and also the token cache. So here we're coming back to the secure store that I installed a second ago. For that, you just need to set up like a little const token cache in here, and of course import the secure store from Expo store. Otherwise, your token will be stored just in memory, and if you refresh the application, you won't be able to automatically sign in the user again. Now, as you can see, I'm also creating something called an initial layout here, which is rendered inside of the clerk provider. What I want to do is I want to catch this state of the user, and if the user is signed in, I want to automatically lock in the user. In all the examples that you're going to see here in the clerk documentation, they're using the traditional React navigation. And they use like signed in or signed out components. But with the file-based router of the Expo Router, or the file-based routing of Expo Router, things work a bit different. So we need to make sure that we're kind of protecting all the pages of our application and automatically catch that state from everywhere. So in order to get our clerk publisher key, let's grab this from the environment. So we can simply say equals process env, but I think it was Expo public clerk publisher key. Oh, that's a hard word to say. We kind of need use effect. We don't really need any of the other stuff, so let's simplify this page a bit. Okay, great. And of course, we should also add the clerk provider from the clerk expo package and also the use auth hook. So this is the first usage of one of the hooks of clerk, which are pretty cool. We're gonna get more into the hooks very soon, because with the hooks, you can also like load the user information and the current session, and it just makes things a lot easier. Now, I feel like we need to drop in some more code. What's your problem here? Initial layout cannot be used as a, yeah. We're gonna fix that. So we're gonna return a slot here, and then everyone should be happy. Why is the clerk provider not yet happy? Probably because this could be null. Yes, it's something like that, but it won't be null. Trust me, clerk provider. This key will never be null. I defined this. All right, here we go. We should probably refresh my application. I don't know. Yeah, let's better refresh this. Okay. So calling the app, and then let's get. Oh, clerk shared could not be found within the project. Clerk React. Clerk shared. Did I import this somewhere? Use auth. Maybe because I'm using use auth. Secure story, use effect, use auth. Let's check this out. We got everything in the package.json. I think we installed the Clerk Expo package, so we should be fine. I feel like this is probably just some sort of caching issue, and also we don't really have any kind of views to display. So let's get a bit ahead with a new folder. I actually want to embrace the groups of the React of the Expo Router. So we're gonna group our stuff into different groups. Under authentication, I wanna put all the pages that should be protected. And under public, I'm gonna put all the public pages like login, registration, and so on. So let's create a new login.tsx in here. And I'm gonna also add its own layout. So if you haven't used the Expo Router version 2, check out my other videos on it. It's actually kinda easy to get started. So I'm gonna drop in, let's do this again. Let's also add a register.tsx, and we will probably also need a password reset.tsx. And within my layout, I'm gonna drop this layout. So this public layout will simply define a stack navigation. We have the screen for the login, for the registration, and for the password reset, and just a few colors, so nothing fancy going on in this view. Now that we got this, we can go back, and within the layout, we can make sure that we actually navigate to some page in the beginning. So we're gonna add a use effect hook in the initial layout. So use effect. And what we're going to check in here is something. Let's close this. But we will also watch the is signed in state of a user. And we can grab this now easily from our clerk hook. So is loaded can be retrieved, and is signed in from use auth. And then I'm going to listen to is signed in. So whenever is signed in changes, our use effect hook will run again. And if it's not loaded, we will just return null. And otherwise, we're gonna return our slot. So let's probably add a little lock in here. Is signed in. And then we might actually be able to see something if we can sort out the package issue we're seeing here. So iOS bundling failed. Let's stop this. npx expo start dash dash. There's something like clear, right? So let's clear this and give it a try again. Okay, yeah, I definitely don't want to have this going on anymore. I don't know if you've seen this before. I sometimes get this. I don't know, when I change my application or don't use it in the right way. But nonetheless, let's see. If we still get the problem, it might be an issue. Yeah, we don't get this. That's good news. That's good news. So it's not a problem of the latest SDK. Clerk works fine with Expo. All right, our initial layout. I actually don't want to do this in here. I wanted to do it in here. So if it's not loaded, we're just gonna return. But we don't really need to return null. If it is loaded, we're gonna use the router and the segments to check in which part of the application we are. So we use this in other cases as well. So we're gonna use this from the Expo Router, and we can simply check if we are inside of, let's say, the authentication folder. If the segments at 0 is equal to auth, then we're in that specific group. And that means if we're signed in and we're not in the tabs group, we can bring the user to the inside area. So we don't have that path yet. That's pretty cool. That's the Expo Router version 2. So you've seen this. It complains because we actually have no route home, and the Expo Router is able to understand that. And in the other case, if we're not signed in, we will just bring the user back to the login page. So that is our whole logic that we're going to use here. In that case, yeah, maybe we should just add our auth page. So let's see, I'm going to add my home.tsx in here. And if I do this, the router is immediately happy about this. This is so cool. I really like the Expo Router version 2. This gives us so much more confidence in routing. Okay, we don't really have any kind of user or signed in information at the moment. So nothing in here will actually work, but we should actually get to my login page. Where's my login page? It's here. Let me drop in something in the login page so we can see the functionality of Clerk. So React Native functional export component with styles. I'm gonna bring in some styles. If you want to check out the full code linked below the videos, I'm gonna go a bit faster through a few elements now because we've covered the initial setup of Clerk, and now I'm gonna show you how we can actually sign in users, how we can register users, how we can reset the password, and also how we can use it in the inside area, but in a bit speed up way. So within my login page, we're gonna do this later, but we're also gonna add a bit of state here. So all I did is I used the use sign in hook because we're now using the manual flow from Clerk and not the sign in component as we've seen. If you're on the web, you can use that sign in component and you can just design it however you want, including the colors and stuff. You can set up everything in terms of what you want to capture, the email address, phone number, or username. And it's really like, you can really do a lot here, and that's really, really cool. In fact, there's one more thing I want to do that is under customization, webhooks. Where was it? It was under email, phone, username, password, username. Yeah, users can set usernames to their account. Yeah, this year, specify whether users have personal. Let's say users can set their first name and last name, so we can use this later. But back to our application, we finally want to see our login page, and I feel like at some point we should be able to see this page because the login page does work and my layout is intact as well. We're actually not exporting our root layout navigation. So now we finally export this. Can we make that work as well? Let's see if I now press the reload. No apps connected. What's your problem? No, we shouldn't do it like this. I feel like this is not a very smart idea because then we don't return anything and Expo is usually getting mad about that. All right, let's see. We see the login page. We won't be able to log in, but the most important part from the login page is that we're now able to go to the register page, which we, by the way, haven't created. So let's go to the register page, React Native functional export with styles, and then let's do this page. So on this page, once again, adding some styles. In fact, most of the page will look the same. However, now we're really getting into the stuff that makes the sign up with Expo a bit more complicated. And that is, we need to go through the manual flow by, first of all, creating the user, then sending out a verification email, and then making sure that we can continue. So once again, we're using a hook from Clerk, use sign up. And we can use the sign up function and the set active function. And we will also use a bit of state to send the user a verification email. This also means we're going to update the view to show this. So when I click create account, yeah, you will still be mad because on sign up press does not yet exist. So let's add this. And then we also need, can you do the other one? Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Create account. No route, register. Yeah, let's probably reload. There we go. Here's the the sign up screen. I can put in my email and password now, but I can't really sign up. So what is required to create a user? Let me bring in that snippet and then we talk about this. So first of all, we're gonna check if the Clerk instance is not yet loaded. So in that case, we're gonna return. But usually if we get to that screen, it should be ready. We set our loading because the sign up takes a few seconds and we wanna show the loading spinner. Then we try the actual creation of the user. So we're gonna use the sign up, which we got from the use sign up hook. And this is, as I said now, the manual flow of Clerk. We create the user with email and password. We then use prepare email address verification to send out a verification email to that user. And then we set our set pending verification to true. By doing this, this is just updating our state. We're gonna show another input. So if pending verification, we get another text input in which we can add a code and then press a button to verify the email. So that means if the user presses this on verify button, we just need to make sure that we send out the code to Clerk again, which we do by attempt email address verification with the code that the user entered. And then we can call set active, which will set our active session. This is a very important part. So after going through the email sign up and the verification, setting the user as active is actually one of the most important pieces. So let's check this out. I'm going to create my account. I'm going to use simon@galaxies.dev. And the interesting thing is let's do a simple password. Okay, password must be at least 8 characters. Okay. Password has been found in an online data breach. So I was using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it was a super simple password. That means you really need to have some sort of legit password here. And Clerk is taking care of all of that and handling your password strength. I should have gotten an email now. Yes, here we go. Enter the following verification code when prompted. Before we do that, let's check out the user in Clerk. So I should at this point, should I see the user? Well, the user is not yet verified, so I assume I shouldn't see him or her. Okay, let's put in the code. I put in the code, I verify my email, and we're trying to go home. Okay, yeah, that's cool. So after the verification, what happens is that our authentication state has changed. And as we know, we implemented the use effect hook in our initial layout here. So is signed in will have changed, and it tried to navigate to home. So actually we see the log is signed in true because we set the session. Now I should also be able to exactly see my user ID, email address. I don't have any other information, but we're gonna be able to set this. So you already see that the user profile here on Clerk is pretty extensive. You can have a lot of things out of the box like photo, email, different other information. You could also have used some OAuth provider. You can have meta fields, different fields for anything you want. And you just have a lot more control over the users of your application. With that in place, we do have a user right now. So it might be a good idea to get started with the inside area where we can then also like log out the user. So what I want to do on the home screen is I just want to greet the user with an email, and we can do this with the use user hook. Let's refresh this and see. Welcome, simon@galaxies.dev. This is really easy. You get access to all the information of a user, and we're in the inside area, remember, because is signed in is true, and therefore we are automatically brought forward with a router to the right page. Now, if I want to make this a better layout, let's add the new layout file to this group. So let's use layout.tsx in here. And what I want to do is I want to define a simple tabs interface in here. And for this tabs interface, yeah, let's refresh this. Oh yeah, if I define a tabs interface, I should probably have the second page, which is the profile. Well, that's at least what I added. Oh, thanks for that page. So tabs, it mostly looks like what you would do with React navigation as well. However, it's now using tabs from the Expo router. I also added a simple logout button, which will be included somewhere. I actually don't know where did I include this? Oh, I included it, I think, on the profile screen. So let's probably put some random stuff in here as well. So then I should be able, yeah, then I got the button up here. So once again, this is coming from the Clerk package, and I don't need to do any other fancy stuff. I can just call a sign out and everything will be cool. And because we're handling this in the layout file, in the root layout file of our application, we can be sure that we react accordingly to the change of the session, which will be set as inactive or null in the background, and then we're automatically brought back to the login because of the code we wrote before. Also, to make sure that users who come, like if you deploy this as a website, for example, if a user directly navigates to /home or /article or whatever you might have, we can also protect this by using the is signed in from the use auth hook and use this as a redirect on the different screens. So if the user is not signed in, this redirect will be set and users will not be able to actually enter that page. But we're also going to have the logic from the root layout, so our pages are perfectly protected in this case. And actually, I should be able to log out. Yes. and be on the login screen. So that means we're now on the login screen, and we can wrap up our authentication flow by adding the on sign in pressed. And just like before, we can directly use the sign in function from Clerk, but we're also going to use the set active function. So there's a bit of manual work included. Once again, if the Clerk instance is not yet loaded, we're just going to return. Otherwise, we're going to show a little loading overlay and then try to sign in, create. That's the right call. I was just a bit confused about create, but that's completely true. And after we complete the sign in, we can also lock this out. We're gonna once again set our active session, which will then again trigger the stuff in our layout because is signed in changed in here. So let's add a few locks and let's see what happens. Actually, did you know you can just press J since Expo 49 and then we'll open the usual debugging tools? I kind of like the console more in here. Just a little tip on the side. So let's try and log me in. Simon@galaxies.dev. Let's try a wrong password. Oh, the email is already wrong. Couldn't find your account. Alert. It's actually always a good idea to just try all the other cases, like wrong email, not even an email, not the right password, or anything. So let's try an actual password that could work. Log in, and then we see complete sign in. After that, we get a nice object with my identifier. We get status complete, and we should. Where's the user data? Here's the user. Ooh, I do have an image URL. What's my image? And I do have a gravatar. That's interesting. Let's see. Okay, yeah, it's just the default avatar. But that also means you could potentially upload your own avatar pretty easy. Not found. Could be something for another tutorial. So if you want to see more interaction with Clerk, please let me know in the comments, and I'm gonna make it work to show you also how you can change your user avatar with Clerk, because I'm really fascinated by how easy Clerk works. Yes, we couldn't use the actual component that we defined in the beginning, like the sign in. Oh, thanks, confetti. Nice. Thank you. Thank you very much. We couldn't use that one, which is usually used on the web and makes things even more easier. But overall, like the register flow with the email verification, it was just 2 steps. It wasn't really that hard. And I've seen code for OAuth or anything besides that, and it's really that easy. So the perfect way to get started. To round up this, we need to do 2 more things. One is the reset functionality, and the second one is how we can update user data. So let me show you the reset real quickly, because there's actually nothing fancy going on in the reset. So you might already know what happens if we want to reset the user password. We need to enter our email. Clerk will be informed that the user wants to reset the password. Then the user gets another email with a code, and then the user can set a new password and include that code. So again, you can find the whole code linked below this video. And I'm gonna show you, that's interesting, that it works really easy. Let's see, since when is sign in probably undefined? I've used sign in here as well, and it wasn't. It's a sign in resource from use sign in. Did I also use it from use sign in? How in the world can it be probably undefined in this case, but not on the other page? That's basically impossible. How in the world? No, it's not. It's possibly it's not possibly undefined. I don't know what's your problem. Well, TypeScript. You're having a good day, TypeScript. You're having a good day. You're having fun with me, huh? Anyway, so let's see. If I want to hit the endpoint, I'm gonna say, okay, I forgot my password. I'm gonna send my email with the strategy reset password email code. And I'm gonna set this the state set successful creation. This simply triggers our next view. So let's try this out. I'm gonna add Simon@galaxies.dev. I'm gonna send the reset email. This brings me to the next screen. So if we have successfully created this, I'm going to show another empty fragment with a text input for the code and for the new password. And at the same time, I'm also getting an email like this. Here's your reset password code. So that means I'm now copying over this code into my application, and probably we could have something like a deep link that directly pre-fills this page with a code. Or could I probably send this to a phone number? That has to be discovered. So if James from Clerk is watching this, maybe you can let me know in the comments if we could also like get this code to my phone number, because on iOS I know then it comes up like, oh, add this code from your SMS or messages or whatever, and you can just fill it into the field, which is pretty cool and makes things a lot easier. So if I now go ahead and finally click the set new password, I will pass in that code, the new password, the strategy, attempt to first factor. If you set up two-factor authentication, you might have a second thing that you have to do. So be aware of that once you implement this. But besides that, same flow as before, setting the user session active, which means I should be brought instantly to the inside area again because of the authentication we've set up with Expo Router. Also, I get another nice email. So the email game is really, really great. It just works out of the box, and honestly, I love it. I really love it. I like it when things are just easy to implement and just work. Okay, there's one more thing that I wanted to show you, and which was updating the user data. So let's go to my profile screen here, and on the profile screen, I want to add a few fields. So let's add this in here. I want to greet the user by its name, and I also want to save the user data to update my profile, because yes, this is also possible. And again, if you want to see more about like using the avatars or image upload, please let me know. User is possibly null. I wouldn't say that, but well, why not? So if the user is null, we're gonna make this optional. Placeholder, can I do it in here as well? You're gonna be mad about that, right? Can I just do it like this? Tricked. Okay, so let's go to my profile. Good morning, nobody, because our user does not have a name, so we just see good morning. But if I now want to save my user, I can just try and say const result equals await user dot update. Well, let's say at this point, okay, user question dot update. And I should be able to update the meter information of my users. I'm going to send in first name and last name. Now at this point, first name and last name will be defined. Come on, chill out. Come on. Goodness. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. I'm sorry about that. TypeScript, I completely agree. I can't use the short form if I want to say it like this. Nonetheless, once the update is done, I'm going to log out the result, and we probably should add a little catch block. So Copilot, do your thing. There we go. All right, here we go. My profile, I don't have any names, so let's call myself Simon G. I'm gonna update my profile, and it updates the name. Does it also update the name in Clerk? That's the interesting question right now. Yes, it shows. It already shows Simon G. Nice. If I update it in here, what happens in that case? So let's apply the changes. I assume, okay, let's see if I refresh the app. Yes, so then it shows the new name, and of course I can also update it correctly from here, update it on the web, and the user data is updated. And just like that, I could also easily update my meta information, my image, my phone number, my social accounts, because Clerk is really more than just authentication. It is a user management. I hope I was able to show you this. Also, I hope you learn how you can correctly apply authentication. It is very important that you do most of the stuff in your root layout file, because if you're using Expo for the web and people navigate to some other part of your application using the new file-based router, the stuff, the layout that we have at the root level will still be applied, like the provider which is added to your application, or all the other logic that you've set up. But stuff like the layout in the public file might not apply to things that are in the authentication folder. So be aware that the root layout file is very important to handling your authentication, where you can easily react to the sign-in states of user. This not only works with Clerk, this also works with most other forms of authentication when you write your own provider or if you use Firebase. So hope this makes things a lot easier the next time you want to implement user authentication with React Native. Alright, and that's it for today's React Native tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this overview and this step-by-step guide of going from React Native empty Expo application and then implementing the layouts, the routing, the different files of our application, protecting this using the different hooks from Clerk and the sign up and sign in flow from Clerk. I think it's one of the best ways to use user authentication to manage your users. If you have different requirements, you can pretty much configure this to all your needs. We've just touched like the top of Clerk and what you can do, and there's a whole lot more of options and capabilities that you can implement, that you can integrate and use in different frameworks, not only Expo but also others like Next, Remix, Gatsby. Everything should work with Clerk, and you can even use cool sign in, sign out components and more. So let me know if you want to see more about Clerk in the comments, like the avatar upload or working with users, and I will definitely make it work. And please, of course, support the sponsor of today's video at clerk.com. I will hopefully catch you in the next video, and until then, of course, happy coding, Simon.